Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. King Katvanga was unconquerable in any fight. Requested by the demigods to join them in fighting the demons, he won victory, and the demigods, being very pleased, wanted to give him a benediction. The king requested from them about the duration of his life, and was informed that he had only 1 moment more. Thus he immediately left his place and went to his own residence, where he engaged his mind fully on the lotus feet of the Lord. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki. The example of Maharaj Katvanga in performing devotional service is brilliant. Maharaj Katvanga engaged himself for only a moment in devotional service to the Lord, but he was promoted back to Godhead. Therefore, if one practices devotional service from the beginning of his life, surely he will return home back to Godhead, without a doubt. Ashamshaya. In Bhagavad Gita, the word Ashamshaya is used to describe the devotee. There, the Lord Himself gives this instruction. Maya Shaktya Manapata Yogim Yunja Mad Ashraya Asham Shayam Shamagramam Yata Jignashya Tatshrunu. 7.1 Bhagavad Gita. Now hear, O son of Prita, Arjuna, how by practicing yoga and full consciousness of me, with mind attached to me, you can know me in full, free from doubt. The Lord also instructs, Jamna karmacha medivyam evam yo veditatvata tvaktam deham punajama naiti mamatiso Arjuna. Bhagavad Gita 4.9. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Therefore, from the very beginning of one's life, one should practice Bhakti Yoga, which increases one's attachment for Krishna. If one daily sees the deity in the temple, makes offerings by worshipping the deity, chants the holy name of the personality of Godhead, and preaches about the glorious activities of the Lord as much as possible, he thus becomes attached to Krishna. This attachment is called asakti. When one's mind is attached to Krishna, Maya Ashakti Manaha, one can fulfill the mission of life in one human birth. If one misses this opportunity, one does not know where he is going, how long he will remain in the cycle of birth and death, and when he will again achieve the human form of life, and the chance to return home back to Godhead. The most intelligent person, therefore, uses every moment of his life to render loving service to the Lord. Om Agina Tulamandasya Ganan Gana Salaikaya Shakshashom Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastai Bhutale Shivane Shiva Swami Chinamani Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vastai Bhutale Shivane Bhaktivedanta Swami Chinamani. So this translation is very interesting because it's a story of a great king who was a very powerful warrior, and he was invincible, as it says, King Katvanga, and he was very exemplary, because even though he was very invincible, he had knowledge, spiritual knowledge, and he must have been like a Raja Rishi, as they say, a Raja, one with much opulence and power, but also a Rishi with self-realization. they say these Raja Rishis, it's good to be very Raja, but it's important to be more Rishi, because when the most important, when things happen, when life depends on it, we need to take shelter of the Supreme Lord. So Maharaj Khatvanga, he was a master of all martial arts and weaponry, and he was granted the boon by the demigods because he won a fight for them against the demons. And he asked, because they give him a benediction, as we see, and they said, "What would you can have anything you like. We can provide any material happiness." But he said, he thought to himself, "I don't need material things. I just want to know when my time of death is coming. When do I die?" And the demigods, by their very mystical ability, they could see that actually he only had a moment left. It says in the Sanskrit, word for word, it says a muhurtam, which is I think it's about 48 minutes, something like that. And so Prabhupada explains it's like a moment. I suppose throughout the whole of one's life, 48 minutes is like a moment, because if you're told that you've got that long to live, what would our situation be? So we follow these great personalities. So Khatvanga Maharaj, he knew these arts, these martial defenses, and could beat any enemy. But he knew that the greatest warrior is on the material level is time. He knew that he couldn't beat time, inevitable time, which is the Kala Chakra. It's always very close. For one who hasn't got spiritual knowledge, I suppose time is a great enemy. It's a fearsome factor. But for the devotee, time is a friend, because time reminds us of how long we haven't really got. At every moment, the body is decaying away. At every moment, it's like it explains in Sanskrit, sort of vriksha, like a tree being cut down at every moment. So Maharaj Khatvanga, he knew even through his martial arts and all his power, he couldn't fight off death. So he did what a great exemplary soul would do. He went to take shelter of the Supreme Lord. He went home to his deities and the devotees, and he went to meditate. Prabhupada says about this. He says, we do a lot of studying in our lives, and we study for many mundane subjects or accomplishments, which in a lot of cases we do need these things. We need to maintain our health and our wealth, but it's not the primary goal. Prabhupada explains that all this studying we do, but there's nobody really does any preparation for the most important exam, which is leaving the body. So Khatvanga Maharaj, he's very exemplary in this. He just instantly, said, "Okay, great, I'm ready to go. Let's go and meditate." Prabhupada talks in the purport about practice. That's why it's important to practice, because when death comes, if we're not practicing, we won't really know how to accept it. And as we understand, it's not easy to leave the body. It's a very difficult process. But you have to go at a certain point. You can't stay. We don't want to go, but for a devotee, he becomes fearless because he chants the holy name. The Lord and His name are non-different, and So Maharaj Pariksit is a great example of this. Maharaj Pariksit Maharaj, he's there, and he's been cursed by a Brahmin boy, untimely, and at the entrance of the age of Kali Yuga. But he accepts the curse, and in those he has 7 days to live, Maharaj Pariksit, and he starts to fast instantly. He doesn't drink any food or eat any food or drink any water, and he goes to search out. He he's actually, what would we say? He's because Parikshit itself, the name Parikshit means to examine. He's a thoughtful soul, and this is what Prabhupada explains. We should be thoughtful men and women. We should be thoughtful and examining our situation in the world, which is very temporary. Prabhupada explains that our life is like, on the end of a leaf. It's like a drip waiting to drop. You never know when it drops. It's going to at some point. And so Parikshit Maharaj, he approached Sukadev Goswami, the great sage, and he asked him two questions, these two important questions. He said, I have two very important questions for you, Maharaj. And Sukadev said, please tell me these questions. And he said, what is a man meant to do in life in general? What is the general goal of all men? And also, what is a man meant to do who's about to die? And Prabhupada explains this Sanskrit word of kritam sudham, kritam, to do, and sudham is pure. The purest thing to do in life, the most important thing, is to inquire of atata brahma jigyasa. Who am I? And what's this place? And where am I going? Because we can't take it with us. And so Maharaj Parikshit, he asks these questions, and Sukadev Goswami explains that. He says these are two very good questions, but the one relating to the dying man is very important. But actually, these two questions are like one question, because at the same time we're all dying men and dying women. It's the moment you're born, the body starts to. Maybe it grows. Obviously, it's growing, but at the same time, it's changing, and gradually it'll dwindle and dissolve. So this is a very important question, and this is what all men should ask in their life. And this is how it brings us to Krishna consciousness. It's not, as we understand, Krishna consciousness is not a religion; it's a science. There are religious processes, but the real entrance of Krishna consciousness is questioning, who am I? And who am I? Who is the Supreme? And what is my relationship between me and the Supreme? That's very important. So Parikshit Maharaj, he's so exemplary, and he's fearless. So we would follow in the footsteps of these great souls. That's why Srimad Bhagavatam is so important. It's the great souls are glorifying the Supreme Lord, and they're also becoming glorified as well because of their the way that they live their lives in service to God, because we understand that our constitutional nature is an eternal servant of God. That's the highest goal is to serve the Lord, and it starts through chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, chanting, hearing, remembering the Lord. Arjuna was also a great example of this. Remember Arjuna, he was there on the battlefield, and just before the great battle, and in Krishna consciousness we're vegetarians. We at the same time we're not pacifists. We believe in protection and non-violence, but there is a time to actually take up arms. And Arjuna was there on the battlefield. The whole Bhagavad Gita is spoken on the battlefield just before the war. And but Arjuna didn't want to fight. He became a bit sentimental, and he was covered by Krishna's internal potency to forget his eternal identity as a servant of the Lord. So he puts across arguments or the sentiments of a mundane person, and but at the same time, no matter how sad it got or how difficult it became for Arjuna, he always went towards Krishna. He always went towards him, took shelter of Krishna. He didn't get off the chariot and run away and go up to the forest. He was thinking about it a few times, but he went towards Krishna. And as we see, when Arjuna and Duryodhan, just before the battle, they went to Hastinapur to see the Lord, and the Lord was there sleeping in his quarters, and Duryodhan came in and he went and sat right up by Krishna's head, waiting for him to wake up, but Arjuna came in and he stood at his feet, like a devotee does, at the Lord's feet. And when Krishna awoke, he looked down, because the first person he saw was Arjuna. And Duryodhana said, "Oh, dear Lord, nice to see you. We've both come. I come here first. Could I please ask for your help?" Krishna said, "Well, nice to see you both. I've just woken up, and the first person I saw was Arjuna. So Arjuna can go first." He said, "But I've given you choices." He said, "I give you choices if you want me to fight in this battle, or what I can give you is I'm not going to fight. I offer myself as a chariot driver, and something like that." But he said, or you can take my army, my 100,000 Narayan warriors that are invincible." And Arjuna said, "Dear Lord, I just want you on my chariot, as my chariot, with me, because I know all will be protected." So he knew Krishna was the Supreme Lord. And Duryodhana laughed. He thought, you've just got Krishna. He won't even fight in the battle, and I can take his whole army. I'm going to win. But he was eluded by, selfish desires and mundane knowledge. He didn't have faith in the Lord. So Katyanga Maharaj is a great example of this. He has an unflinching faith. And a very nice thing in Krishna consciousness is not only do we have the scriptures, we have the living examples, many nice devotees around, senior devotees and everything, and nice devotees younger and on the same level, but also some nice, very advanced devotees that we should take shelter of and take instruction. That's how the parampara works, the disciplic succession. We're very fortunate to have the exemplary spiritual masters to guide us. We need, because sometimes when we're reading the book, we need, if we take what we want from the book, we could end up reading it in the wrong way. We need someone there to, as they say, bang us on the head with the book, just to remind us what it really means. So we need spiritual guidance, Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. So Katyanga Maharaj, he was fearless, and as we understand, he also had a higher taste. He explains in Bhagavad Gita 2:59 that by attaining this higher taste of Krishna consciousness, one starts to let go of all the fears and the unwanted things in life, and he could see Krishna's plan. He could see that he couldn't fight off death, and the best thing to do is to chant the holy name and take shelter of the Lord. Shiva Maharaj gave a nice example that when you're throughout our life, because we should be practicing. He says at the time of death, when the body goes 107 degrees, it rises. It's very difficult. It's a very painful process, and then it goes cold, because that's when we leave the body. But the voice can choke up. It's difficult to chant. It's even difficult to chant, physically. But then he says, because if you're engaged, absorbed in your mind, then you should be chanting in your mind, chanting Krishna's name. Which is a nice point Prabhupada explains about, through practice and through chanting and also through preaching or through passing on this knowledge. As we know, it's a time of the marathon now. It's a good time to go out and share this transcendental knowledge. And if we pass this on, Lord Chaitanya also says that even if death comes very quick and we haven't got time to prepare, when we're engaged in Krishna's service and in passing this knowledge on to others, he'll enter the mind of his devotee, through the holy name. So, whatever you think of, as explains in Bhagavad Gita 8.6, yam yam vapi smaram bhavam, that, whatever you're thinking of at the time of death, that state we attain without fail. Staying on that subject a little bit, because this is what I'm sort of finding one of the main points is that Katyanga Maharaj, he's only got moments to prepare. And so we've got like the I was just talking about these examples. So they're like walking Bhagavats. We need the walking, not just the book Bhagavat, but the walking Bhagavats that live the life of the scriptures. And explains in Bhagavad Gita 3:21 that whatever action a great man performs, common men follow, and whatever standard he sets by his exemplary acts, the whole world pursues. So we follow in the footsteps of the advanced devotees and take guidance. There's some nice examples. We've seen it since my experience of being a devotee for a little while. I've seen some very exemplary senior devotees as well, leaving the world and actually very fearless. Like Bhaktitirtha Swami, he was absorbed in prayer, and at the time of leaving the world, he was chanting, he was preaching to all his disciples. And this is what Prabhupada taught us. Prabhupada is teaching us, in the last 5-10 minutes of his life, he didn't teach anything brand new or come up with anything that was... Actually, he did come up with something which is amazing, which is he actually was chanting the holy name. And he was absorbed in Krishna, and he showed us how to leave the world. And also, I remember when I was with once I was in the Sankirtan office with and Tribhuvanath Prabhu was there. He used to come in on Sundays and do his correspondence. And at that time he had cancer, and he was quite bad at that time. He'd lost a lot of weight, and we offered him some nice prasadam, and he said, I can't eat anything now. He said, Krishna's taken away my taste buds, he said. And he said it in quite a humorous way. And he said, so I've got to get more deeper into my meditation. But he was so beaming with happiness of Krishna consciousness. It gives one faith when you see a devotee that's about to depart, and he ain't got a problem, he's fearless. We need that. Well, I personally needed that myself. I need to see these things sometimes. So there was also a nice, like Jayananda as well. Jayananda was a very good example. He was fixing all the Rath Yatra carts up for all these great Rath Yatras in America back in the 70s. And when he had cancer, he got a real bad case of cancer. Jai Shri Radha Gokulananda, Shri Sitaram Lachman Hanuman Shri Gaurani Tai Ki Jai. And he didn't want to tell anyone. He didn't tell it. One devotee found out that he said, don't tell anyone. He said, I just want to carry on with my service. And he still, to the last moments, pretty much was there in his wheelchair, making sure all the Krishna's Rath Yatra cart was being built properly, and he was doing service. And they say, actually, at the last moments of his death, he wanted to be with Prabhupada so much that he was laying there and he was in so much pain, but he was thinking of Prabhupada, and they had a tape recorder, like a little one of those little tape players, and he managed to push his body over, and he laid his ear on top of the tape recorder with Prabhupada chanting. And this is a great example. And so this is we could say, this is a bit of a morbid subject going on here. I suppose if we were in a different religious audience, or say if we were in a more of a what we were talking to a interfaith or something, this would be a bit too morbid for everyone. But in Krishna consciousness, this is the first step. Prabhupada hits it, doesn't he? You're not the body. Prepare. You're eternal. This body is going. Make best use of your bad bargain. So for devotees, this is an interesting subject. For me, it's quite an interesting subject, and because it's like Yudhisthira, when he was having those at the Lake of Death, he met with his father, Lord Yamaraj, and he was asked those 48 questions, and out of that there was 4 other very important questions, and one of those questions was, what's the most amazing thing in this world? And Yudhisthira Maharaji says the most amazing thing in this world is that even though a man is, he's in the world and people are being born around him, people are dying, many of his relatives have died, he never thinks death will come. He may hear of death, but when it comes, no, not now. So this is the most amazing thing. Well, there was one great devotee actually. He wasn't so well known, but in Wales, I didn't know him myself, but I was told of him by a very close authority that I had there, and he was inspired by him. He helped make this person a devotee when at a certain time, and this devotee, due to his misspent youth in some ways, he had some problems with some drugs, I suppose, at a certain point, but he was in Krishna consciousness, and he got over a lot of that, but quite serious, and he had an illness in the end. He had AIDS, HIV, and he became HIV positive, I think, and so he only had a little time to live, and he's a godbrother actually, and the last maybe month of his life was around this time, December time, and he actually went into the marathon for that whole month, and he was, if he caught a cold, he'd be finished, but he just went straight in. He knew he was going to catch a cold. He knew he was going to end up dying, and he did that whole marathon, and at the end of it, in January time, he did leave his body, and at his funeral, his ceremony, Shiva Amaraj, he paid his dandavats to his photograph, because he was a great soul that went out on the battlefield, as they say. That's what Prabhupada said, wasn't it? He said when he was very sick in his last days, he said to he said, to some of his close devotees, he said, Prabhupada, you're so ill. Why are you still preaching? And why don't you just rest? He says, I want to go out like a warrior on the battlefield, like Arjuna. So these are great examples. Katyanga Maharaj, Parikshit Maharaj, these are, maybe not all of us can do that. I haven't got the ability to do that myself, but it's a nice thought of, in the last, preparing in the last 5 minutes, we can then just, we carry on preaching for our lives, and stay Krishna conscious, then we're ready. In the last 5 minutes, we wind it up. And it's a bit ideal probably, but who knows what Krishna's plan is. But we keep practicing, and we take it seriously, try and go deep into the chanting and our service. Very important. They say, your service is your saver, isn't it? Saver. As they say, your saver will save you. So it's really important, our service. Katyanga Maharaj, he didn't want material happiness. He was up there with the demigods, won the battle. I mean, all these demigods got so much opulence, and they're up on those heavenly realms. It's difficult to become self-realized. They're karma mishra bhaktas, the demigods. They're always going towards Krishna, but they get sort of what do we say? A little bit confused sometimes with material opulences, but they like to enjoy as well. So Katyanga Maharaj wasn't interested in this temporary enjoyment because it's so temporary. It's to try and make the world a perfect place and to make it last. Prabhupada gives the example. It's like washing coal. So when you get your coal, you try and clean it and make it nice. It won't happen. You can get your best materials for cleaning, but it'll just be black. And you try to make something perfect in this world, well, without Krishna's help or without towards Krishna, it easily falls apart. For one perfection, there's 1,000 imperfections. This is why we should use everything in Krishna's service. These demigods, they got such opulence, and so he wasn't interested in that. The symptoms of the demigods, even just being a normal intermediate demigod, they've got the ability, the three symptoms of demigods. Their feet don't touch the ground. They float along everywhere, and their eyes don't blink. And they have a garland which never wilts, except at the very end of their time to come back and fall from the heavenly planets. Then it will. So he knew this was temporary. Abrahma Bhuvaloka Punaravatino Arjuna 8:16 Bhagavad Gita. From the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest are all places of misery where repeated birth and death take place. So we try and use everything in Krishna's service, make the best use of the bad bargain. this transcendental knowledge is food for the soul. This is what we need, not material food or trying to polish the body too much. We got to take care of the body because it's our vehicle, and whilst we're in the body, it's an important vehicle, because if it starts to cause us problems, it can, in our conditioned state, we can easily be put off of our spiritual activities. So there's like health, sadhana, service. So we should ultimately good sadhana, but also looking after our good health to a point, and being able to do good service. And so Krishna consciousness is food for the soul, and it's like the bird in the cage. We don't remember that example. If we polish the cage too much and don't feed the bird will die. So we need to feed the bird. We need to feed the soul. With reading, hearing, chanting. It's good to read Prabhupada's books. Very important to read the purports, because it gives you spiritual nourishment. It's if you don't read much, you don't feel nourished. It gives it directs us why we're doing the process, in case we forget. But if one's absorbed in their chanting and their service and a nice association of devotees and prasad, and one sees it's a great fortune. It's a simple life. So just following a few points. So these like for the example, Prabhupada he said that his disciples, they weren't interested in material opulence either. I mean, like some of his disciples were very wealthy, from great wealthy families. Like Giriraj Maharaj, he was from, his family were millionaires, and even more maybe. And his father offered him £1 million once, $1 million to leave Krishna consciousness, to come away and just live back with them, But he wouldn't take the money. And Prabhupada said, I am just a penniless Indian man from India, and these devotees they've come and taken up Krishna consciousness, but because it's an internal wealth, it's a wealth for the soul. It's a it's a growth. I mean, it's there. It's actually, Krishna consciousness is in everyone's heart. Love of God is there, but the process is chanting and hearing it uncovers our original identity, and so internally we grow, and outside it all goes. No doubt, eventually it just all dissolves. You can't do anything about it. Relative time is there, changing the body at every moment. So we this is interesting that there's also that example, in the Vatican there's those quite interesting to remind us, there's these skulls, aren't there? And the skulls, there's a writing underneath saying, as you are, we once were. These skeletons. I think there's some skulls there in the Vatican, and just showing the nature of death. And as you are, we once were, and as we are now, you soon will be. So it's very interesting. How amazing that the mind thinks that we're always going to live. Ultimately, we do. We always live as a soul. The soul never dies. We're eternal, but the body will always be dissolving. So these great souls, that they know this. They have realization. Like Brahmananda was a good example. Brahmananda and Pushta Krishna, when they went to Pakistan, they got sent to preach, and there was some war breaking out there, and there were some reports that some Hare Krishnas had been killed, and so Prabhupada called them back. If they're still alive, he thought it was them may have been killed, but he said just call them back. So they were coming back. They were all leaving, and lots of people were coming out of Pakistan, running for their lives. A lot of Hindu people were dressing up as Muslims, because the Muslims were pulling people over, and firing squad was killing them, and so people were growing beards and everything, and running with sheep under their arms. And anyway, they were on this bus. They sat at the back of the bus, and this bus was going across the border, and they still had their sannyas, saffron garments on. They were no problem, fearless, chanting the holy name. And then they got pulled over at this border patrol. You may have all heard the story. I don't know, but it's quite a nice story. And these Muslim soldiers got on, and they were looking round, and then they seen these two sannyasis, shaven heads, saffron, at the back of the bus. And so they called them out, and they stood them up by the bus, and they got this machine gun ready. They were loading it up, and Brahmananda, to his credit, he said to Pushta Krishna, he said, get your hand in your bead bag. We're going back to Godhead. And they were chanting, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. And he said, as he was chanting or something, the gun was ready, and he said it was like a camera, almost taking pictures of them. And he was chanting, and what happened was, because they were so absorbed, these Muslim soldiers, they become unnerved. And they thought, these guys must be real serious. They must be holy people. So they didn't shoot them. They told them, get back on the bus, and they just told the bus to get going and just leave. So they were, through their faith and their surrender, the Lord wanted them to carry on and preach the glories of Krishna. So we're nearly half past. I can stop here now. Maybe if anyone has any questions or comments or corrections, anyone has any points they want to.